Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of First and Goal on YouTube. Listen, college football is today. It is Saturday. Let's talk about some college football because we have yet to talk about some college football on the YouTube channel so far. So let's talk about Clemson and Ohio State. In my opinion, these are the two best teams in college football at the moment. Let's talk about who actually is the best out of Ohio State and Clemson. Now, listen. Both of these offenses are so versatile. They have so much depth to them, and they can beat you in so many different ways with the running backs and the pass game. Quarterbacks are pretty athletic. So honestly, let's talk about the quarterback position to start off, because Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, in my opinion, and I think in most people's opinion, are the two best quarterbacks in college football, no doubt. Both these guys are right up there in Heisman contention, 1 and 2 for sure. One of these guys is 100% coming away with the Heisman Award. And honestly, both of them have been playing so well and so neck and neck throughout the course of the season so far, that it's really difficult to pinpoint one of them who is the best. They are so good in their own right. Justin Fields, a little bit more athletic, has a very big arm, so accurate, and Trevor Lawrence can make all the throws in the book to perfection, and also not a bad athlete himself. So, such well-rounded guys. However, I'm going to have to give the edge to Clemson just a little bit, because I give Trevor Lawrence, I think he's the better of the two, but they are so close. Now, let's talk about the offenses are so close. We'll talk about the offenses in a second. But let's talk about the defenses right now, because this is where I think one team specifically stands out. I'm giving the edge to Ohio State, because even though Clemson is known for their defense, Brett Venables is a fantastic defensive coordinator. Ohio State's defense this year, in my eyes, is better, and they can come up and show out bigger. Okay. The strong point for me for Ohio State is at the linebacker position. Ohio State's linebackers may not be the flashiest. They may not come away with, a bunch of interceptions, a bunch of forced fumbles. But these guys get the job done. They are the definition of do-it-all linebackers. They are so good in the run game, in the pass game. And they're experienced, really smart players. Tuff Borland, Pete Werner, and Baron Browning, all seniors on this Ohio State defense. Such smart guys. They fill their gaps and they do their job to perfection. And when linebackers do their job, they set the edge. They cover well. That allows pass rushers to get home, because they don't need to do extra. They don't need to fill extra gaps. And it allows the defensive backs to worry less, because they can just focus in on their man or on their zone and not have to worry about the doing extra in the back of the defense. They're so good, and they are so talented. They're just really smart guys. Listen, I'm a big fan of I'm a big believer that linebackers pave the way for a great defense. And listen, Ohio State has three fantastic ones right here. But I just talked about the defensive backfield for a second. You can't talk about the Ohio State defense without talking about Shaun Wade. Wade is a top 5 corner in the nation, no doubt. Probably top 3. He is shut down. He is the guy you just throw out on an island, and he's going to get the job done for you. He's also super versatile. He can play great inside the slot and great outside of the slot as well. He's shown that he started in the slot last year with Okudah and Arnett on the outside, and this year Wade moved outside. He's showing that he can be a lockdown corner in the slot and on the boundary as well. Listen, I think Clemson's defense is pretty good as well. They have Brian Breesy, who's a fantastic interior lineman, Darion Kendrick, but they're young and they are inexperienced, and they haven't looked fantastic at times. Virginia had some nice plays against them. Syracuse had some nice plays against them. And even though they blew out Miami looked okay at times. And I know what you're thinking, but they've blown out teams. Their defense hasn't needed to be spectacular. But in the playoffs, when you're going to be going up against teams like Ohio State, teams like Alabama, who consistently put up 40-plus points per game, you're going to need to get those stops. You're going to need to not only outscore that team, but out-physical them and play better defense. We've seen that a lot in the playoffs. The team who can make the most stops, get the ball back to their offense, usually can come out on top. And an inexperienced defense going up against a team or an offense like Ohio State, like Alabama, that's some trouble, because those teams can hit you in so many different ways. It's scary. Josh Mechie, the emergence that he's had on Alabama, that gives the Crimson Tide 3 fantastic weapons on the outside. Then going back to Ohio State, let's talk about their offense for a second and why I think their offense is actually better overall than Clemson's, even though Clemson has the better quarterback. When it comes to weapons, there's not a better wide receiver duo in the nation right now, maybe better than Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. Wilson had 129 yards against Nebraska and 111 yards against Penn State. Penn State has a good defense. Nebraska, not so much, but Penn State has a good defense, and there you're seeing the consistency from a sophomore, a true sophomore receiver, mind you. Can't forget that he is only a true sophomore, and he's putting up numbers like that. Olave has also been phenomenal. He's put up consistent 100-yard games throughout this year, 100-yard games against Nebraska and against Penn State as well. Those guys combining for over 400 yards throughout 2 games. That is incredible. That is as consistently good and excellent as you can hope for in an offensive duo. It's just how it is. And Olave had a fantastic deep ball catch against Penn State. 2 really good deep threats and so versatile. Wilson works in and out of the slot. Olave does the same. These 2 are as unstoppable of a duo as you can get in college football. And also, you look at the backfield. This Ohio State backfield is great as well. Master Teague and Trey Sermon make a very good duo. Both run with a lot of power, a lot of speed. They can run in between the tackles, run outside the tackles. Really, 2 really fantastic running backs. This Ohio State offense can just hit you in so many different ways, whereas the Clemson offense, yes, they have Travis Etienne. They have some really good wide receivers, but I feel like this Ohio State offense is just so much more versatile. Justin Ross is the best wide receiver for Clemson. He hasn't been, on the field as much. But Amari Rodgers has played well. Joseph Nada, I guess. After Rodgers and Ross, there isn't much there for Clemson in terms of receiving options. And Travis Etienne, yes, he's fantastic, but he's made some mistakes this season. He had a fumble against Boston College. And also, let's talk about that Boston College game, because now DJ Ugalele, excuse me if I butchered that name, but pretty difficult name, but DJ Ugalele, he's kind of struggled against Boston College, or he didn't struggle. He struggled in the beginning part of the game, then he turned it on. But listen, Etienne played well in that game, but he fumbled on the goal line. There are some issues there with Etienne. Yes, he's one of the most explosive players in the game, but can you consistently count on him to show up if those Clemson receivers aren't all there, which we haven't seen Ross or Rodgers break out fantastically yet? They've had good performances, good plays, but they haven't been fantastic like Olave and Wilson have. Listen, and also, Clemson's defense, going back to their defense and their offense, actually, just their team as a whole, they're playing in the ACC. We all know that they are the powerhouse in the ACC. There aren't many other good teams in the ACC besides probably UNC, and they haven't played UNC yet. They haven't played very good teams, but, OSU has played Penn State. They're a very good team, even though they are unranked right now. They've kind of gotten the short end of the stick with the scheduling so far, because they played Indiana and Ohio State, 2 fantastic teams. But Ohio State has played a good Penn State team. Clemson hasn't really played any good teams at all, except for Miami. But, they aren't playing great football this year. So, listen, Ohio State over Clemson for me. This would be a great matchup, but Ohio State is the better team in my eyes right now. I just think they have so much more versatility and depth, especially on the offense, and their defense is much more experienced. I really think they come out on top overall. This would be a great matchup. I'd love to see it, but Ohio State comes out on top for me. Let's talk about game picks for today. Florida versus Georgia. I'm going with the underdog. I'm going with number 8, Florida. 41 to 35. UGA let up over 40 points to a very explosive offense in Alabama, and we know how explosive this Florida offense is as well. Kyle Pitts is a touchdown machine. He's the best tight end in football, no doubt in my mind. And Kadarius Toney is the most explosive weapon in all of football right now. Every single time he touches the football, he is a threat to take it to the house. We've seen that. We've seen him make nothing into something countless times this season. He has multiple touchdowns of over 20 yards this year. They can also spread the ball around quite a bit. They have, 3 other really reliable, solid wide receivers in Justin Shorter, Jacob Copeland, and Trevon Grimes. Not only that, but they have 3 good running backs in Pierce Davis and also the freshman Naquan Wright. He's made an impact so far. I called it in the offseason, though, and we are seeing it unfold before our eyes. I said Kyle Trask would have a Heisman caliber season this year. And guess what he's having? He's having a Heisman caliber season this year. He has 18 touchdowns. That is 4th most in the FBS. He also has the 4th best QBR in the FBS at 90.4. He's having a phenomenal season. And he only has 2 interceptions, so he's not turning the ball over either. And I've seen a mixed bag from Stetson Bennett, the UGA quarterback. Only 7 touchdowns and not great 5 interceptions. They also only put up 14 points last week against a not very good Kentucky team. And Zamir White had a good game in that in that Kentucky game. He's a very good player. They can run the ball, no doubt, but I'm not sure that they can consistently throw the ball and win the game that way. Although UF's defense, Florida's defense, isn't the best, they are vastly better than Kentucky's. So I don't expect Bennett to have a great game, but I expect White to for sure. Now moving on, this is maybe a little bit of a hot take. I'm taking Notre Dame over Clemson today. 28-24, Notre Dame comes away with the win. I'm really taking underdogs today, but listen, I would say Clemson beats Notre Dame if Lawrence is playing. I know DJ Uiagalelei, the freshman for Clemson, quarterback, 5-star recruit, played well last week against Boston College, but for a large part of that game, he really struggled, and then that offense really struggled to get anything going. That game was a lot closer than Clemson fans would have hoped, and Boston College was leading for a long time in that game, and Notre Dame, they are a fantastic team. They are far better than Boston College, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Their front 7 is fantastic. They get after everyone, every single play. They are relentless, led by seniors like Dalen Hayes, very experienced, very, very good, and so ruthless. They're only letting up 10.4 points per game. And going up against a freshman quarterback, they're going to make him hurt. They are going to be going after him all day. This defense is really, really good, and that is why I'm taking Notre Dame over Clemson. That's just how I feel, because I feel like this defense is going to prevail over the inexperienced quarterback. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of First and Goal on YouTube. Make sure to stay up to date on all of my articles posted at firstandgoalfootballtalk.com. Make sure you go there. And then stay up to date with my podcasts on Apple Podcasts, the First and Goal podcast with Sam Levine. A new one was uploaded just last night, so go check that out. And as always, we'll see you next time on First and Goal.